But we had an idea, not only who he was, we just didn't know where he was. July 8th, July 9th, our media friends in Genesee County and in Detroit media went to the sheriff's office, and we had a briefing at around 2 o'clock. And just before that briefing, 5 minutes, Captain Murphy came up to me. Because of our friends and our investigative tools, it was displayed and it was confirmed that our killer was watching the briefings. Our killer was following all the media from Flint and Genesee County in Detroit. Omar was following your story to find out if we had any leads that led to him. Now, I got to admit, I and the prosecutor do briefings all the time to educate and inform. But I made the decision to use that time to speak to the killer. Again, who we knew who it was, we just didn't know where he was. Which is the reason why we put in our press release that link on July 9th. That was a message that I appreciate you sharing when I used the words frustrated and stalled and that we didn't have a lead, because I wanted him to know that he could come out from under the shadows. He cannot destroy evidence. He doesn't need to, because we didn't know who it was. All the while, we knew that he was following those stories. And I'm so thankful, because what I found later on in dealing with the prosecutor and his assistant, Pat McCombs, as we started writing these search warrants and building this case out, we later realized after the arrest was made that here's an exact photo that was shown to his girlfriend on one of the briefings. It was sent as a screenshot about an MLive article that was done where he wasn't listed as a suspect, almost bragging that they don't even know who did it. But we did. And I think it's important for people to realize now that when you put a case like this together, working with the prosecutor and in the Michigan State Police Crime Lab and our friends from the FBI and of course, the lead, Lieutenant Zach, there's a lot of pieces you have to put together, and sometimes it takes time. We wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to leave, flee, or destroy evidence. So as time went on, the next week, we didn't do any briefings. The week after, we didn't do any briefings. We had a victim's phone that was dumped around Telegraph and Grand River in Detroit. The victim here, Orhan's phone, was taken from the scene and dumped a short time after the murder. An unknown individual at the time that was just a bystander picked the phone up at the intersection. We're able to put the phone there. We're able to do search warrants, again, to different towers to determine where that phone was tracked. And we started putting this case together in those 10 to 14 days of silence. And then last week, when we, with one of Prosecutor Layton's search warrants, was able to identify the new phone number, a new location. On Tuesday, July 23rd, our surveillance team, led by our friends from the Detroit Police Department, the MSP Auto Theft Unit, SMAC, our friends from Dearborn Police Department, and of course, Captain Murphy and Lieutenant Zach, we sat up on the house at 7:36 a.m. and he was backing out of the driveway at 7:41. Omar Bogdan was taken in custody right then and there, taken over to the Dearborn Police Department. He was interviewed. Didn't get rid of any evidence that we needed. We found out that there were some pieces put together in searching the house because of the search warrant. We found multiple weapons, one that we believe could be the murder weapon that's at the State Police Crime Lab right now. Inside the garage was the orange Camaro that is now wrapped in vinyl in the color of white. Never got rid of the car. They get rid of the weapons. He did go to Dunham's, though. And there's a Dunham's in the Detroit area where he went in with his clothes and left with new clothes and the old ones there that are no longer around. He changed his clothes, but he didn't get rid of what we needed to put this case together. And during that interview, which we can't get into the specifics, what we found was because of how this case transpired and how the story was told, it allowed us to do our job without ruining leads that may never have solved this case. When he was taken into custody and he was charged, Prosecutor Layton's going to go over those charges in just a few seconds. We were able to meet with the family. In fact, just before this briefing at 9:30, I met with Orhan's father. He's from Bosnia. His mother had passed away 2 years ago. They are a loving family. He's a hardworking guy. We've never had a call at this location for anything. There was no disturbance. He was just running a business. But I want to tell you, and I want to make sure the media and our friends are well aware of how much I appreciate. And on behalf of the family, they appreciate your storytelling, because that's what led us to where we are right now. Nobody can do the job in this county without a partner in justice like we have, and that is David Layton, the prosecutor. This case was solved because of the good work of the investigation in his office, Prosecutor David Layton.
Thanks, Sheriff. While we still have quite a bit of work to do, because we have to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt in court, and the gentleman is innocent until proven guilty, I do want to congratulate Sheriff Swanson and his team on an outstanding investigation. I read it personally. I was involved with this from the get-go, and I will say this was an extraordinary investigation that has led to these charges. Mr. Brogdon is 29 years old. He's from Detroit. He's been charged with first-degree murder. He's been charged with felony murder, and he's been charged with 1 count of armed robbery. We have attached to each of those felonies, which are life felonies, counts of felony firearm. So you have 6 counts altogether. Obviously, it's a life without parole upon conviction. And we intend to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law. We were pleased to partner with the sheriff. I think we wrote a dozen or more search warrants in this case. Pat McCombs, my assistant, did some heavy-duty lifting in this case over the holiday weekends. And when you have a team like we do in Genesee County, it's like the street sweeper. It may take a while till we get to your street, but we get there and we sweep it clean. And that's what happened here. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. And I do want to point out that with those search warrants, one step leads to another. And, fascinating facts on this whole case. The reason that vehicle was not released is because he loved that car. He just wanted to conceal it. And when we were able to get into that garage because of the search warrant, we found that inside that Camaro were the 2 seats that Orhan were selling that were still identified with grease pencil. So we knew the robbery was part of the scheme. Of course, he tried to minimize the confrontation, but bringing a gun to a location and taking property after you just shot somebody 4 times, that's a different motive of what you tried to explain. So, if I could have Lieutenant Zach and Captain Murphy come up here, these are the guys and their teams, just so you can see the names and the faces that are behind hours and hours of work on a holiday weekend on call. These are the team leads right here. Very proud of Captain Murphy and Lieutenant Zach, and of all the people that work. Sean Thomas from the FBI, I know he's watching right now, but really the team that was able to identify so quickly that our murderer was watching the briefings. If it wasn't for that bit of evidence 5 minutes before that July 9th briefing, I don't know if we'd be here today and bring justice to this family. This is what teamwork looks like in justice. So thank you very much to the lieutenant, for the captain. I appreciate you. We'll open up for any questions you have right now.
Sheriff, you not only misled the suspect, you also misled us. Should we trust what you tell us in the future?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, you now have a track record of not.
No, that's a poor characterization of me and the media. That's why we call it the red herring. This is an investigative tool that was used, and your ability to tell that story to identify and find a killer. And I'm going to tell you that by using that pathway and explaining it and seeing the motive behind it, and I think the relationship that we have and the fact that now you see the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, that's the answer to your question.
Have you done it before, and have you done it?
We have not.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Has he made an appearance yet?
No. He has been arraigned, and he's on no bond.
Okay.
Any questions?
So they didn't know each other before anything?
They did not. They met each other on Facebook Marketplace, and at that point, this was the first interaction that they had, the first personal contact, and it was total just under 3 hours. Again, I want to thank everybody. Thank you for using your platform, your influence. Again, I have to give credit to the MLive story. That's the one that that went out there that was shared with a girlfriend. So therefore, we knew his intentions, and it worked out well. And this family now has closure. So thank you very much. I appreciate it again, and be safe. Good job.